Chapter 57. Lev. The Tithes at Happy Jack are first-class passengers on the Titanic. There's plush furniture throughout the tithing house. There's a theater, a pool, and the food is much better than homemade. Sure, the fate is the same as the Terribles, but at least they're getting there in style. It's after dinner, and Lev is alone in the tithing house with workout room. He stands on a treadmill that isn't moving because it hasn't turned it on. Because he hasn't turned it on. On his feet are thickly padded running shoes. He wears a double pair of socks to cushion his feet even more. However, his feet are not the concern at the moment. It's his hands. His hands there. He stands there staring at his hands, lost in the prospect of them. He never before has been so intrigued by the lines across his palms. Isn't one of them supposed to be supposed to be a lifeline? Shouldn't the lifeline of a tithe be divided out like the branches of a tree? Lev looks at the swirls of his fingerprints. What a nightmare of identification it must be when other people get the unwind's hands. What can fingerprints mean when they're not necessarily yours? No one will be getting Lev fingerprints. He knows this for a fact. There are tons of activities for tithes, but unlike Terribles, no one is forced to participate. Part of preparation for tithing is a month-long regimen of mental and physical assessments, even before one's tithing party. So all the hard work is done at home before they get here. True, this isn't the harvest camp he and his parents had chosen, but he is a tithe. It's a lifetime pass that's good anywhere. Most of the other tithes are in the rec room at this time of the evening, or in any number of prayer groups. There are pastors of all faiths in the tithing house, ministers, priests, rabbis, and clerics. Because that notion of giving the finest of his flock back to God is a tradition as long as tradition as religion itself. Lev attends as often as necessary, and in Bible study he says just enough of the right things so as to not look suspect. He also keeps his silence when Bible passages come shredded to justify unwinding, and kids start to see the face of God in the fragments. My uncle got the heart of a tithe, and now people say he can perform miracles. I know this woman who got a tithe's ear. She heard a baby crying a block away and rescued it from a fire. We are Holy Communion. We are manna from heaven. We are the peace of God in everyone. Amen. Lev recites prayers, trying to let them transform him and lift him up like they used to. But his heart has been hardened. He wishes it could be hard enough to be a diamond instead of crumbling jade. Maybe then he'd have chosen a different path. But for who he is now, for what he feels and what he doesn't feel, the path is right. And if it's not right, well, he doesn't care to change it. The other tithes know Lev is different. They've never seen a fallen tithe before, much less one who, like the prodigal son, has renounced his sin and returned to their fold. But then, tithes don't generally know many other tithes. Being surrounded by so many kids just like them feeds that sense of being the chosen group. Still, Lev is on the outside of that circle. He turns the treadmill on, making sure his strides are steady and his footfalls are as gentle as can be. The treadmill is state of the art. It has a screen with a programmable vista. You can jog through the woods or run a New York Marathon. You can even walk on water. Lev has prescribed extra exercise when he arrived a week ago. That first day, his blood tests showed high triglyceride levels. He's sure that Maya's and Blaine's blood levels showed the same problem as well. Although 3 of them were captured independently and arrived a few days apart from one another, so no connection among the 3 could be made. Either it runs in your family or you've had a diet high in fats, the doctor had said. He prescribed a few low-fat diet. He prescribed a low-fat diet during his stay at Happy Jack, and suggested additional exercise. Lev knows there's another reason for the high triglyceride level. It's not actually triglyceride in his bloodstream at all, but a similar compound, one that's a little less stable. Another boy enters the workout room. He has fine hair so blonde it's practically white, his eyes so green there must have been some genetic manipulation involved. Those eyes will go for a high price. Hi, Lev. He gets on the treadmill next to Lev and begins running. What's up? Nothing. Nothing, just running. Lev knows the kid didn't come here of his own accord. Tithes are never supposed to be left alone. He was sent here to be Lev's buddy. Candle lighting will be starting soon. You coming? Every evening, a candle is lit for each tithe being unwound the next day. An honored kid gives each. The honored kids give each kid. Okay, The honored kids each give a speech. Everyone applauds. Lev finds it disgusting. I'll be there, Lev tells the kid. Have you started working on your speech yet? He asks. I'm almost done with mine. Mine's still in bits and pieces, Lev says. The joke goes over the kid's head. Lev turns off the machine. The kid will not leave him alone as long as he's here, and Lev doesn't really want to talk to him about the glory of being the chosen one. He'd rather think about those who aren't chosen, and are lucky enough to be far from a harvest camp, like Risa and Connor, who are, to the best of his knowledge, are still in that sanctuary at the graveyard. It's a big comfort to know that their lives will continue even after he's gone. There's an old trash shed behind the dining room that's no longer in use. Lev found it last week and decided that it was a perfect place for secret meetings. When he arrives that evening, May is pacing in the small space. She's been getting more and more nervous each day. How long are we gonna wait? She asks. Why are you in such a hurry? Lev asks. We'll wait until the time is right. Blaine pulls out 6 small paper packets from his sock, tears one open, and pulls out a little round Band-Aid. What's that for? May asks. For me to know and for you to find out. You're so immature. May always has a short fuse, especially when it comes to Blaine, but tonight there seems to be more rumbling beneath the surface of her attitude. What's wrong, May? Lev asks. May takes a moment before answering. I saw this girl today playing piano on the chop shop roof. I know her from the graveyard, and she knows me. That's impossible. She's from the graveyard. That's impossible. She's from the graveyard. Then why would she be here? Asks Blaine. Wait. I know what I saw. And I think the other kids here I know from the graveyard too. What if they recognize us? Blaine and May look to Lev as if he can explain it. Actually, he can. They must be the kids who were sent here on a job and got caught. That's all. May relaxes. Yeah, that must be it. If they recognize us, says Blaine, we could say the same thing happened to us. There, says Lev. Problem solved. Good, says Blaine. Back to business. So, I'm thinking we go for the day after tomorrow, on account of I'm being scheduled for the football day after that, and I don't think it'll go very well. Then he hands 2 of the little Band-Aids to May and 2 to Lev. What do we need Band-Aids for? I was told to give you these after we got here. Blaine dangles one from his fingers, like a little flesh-colored leaf. They're not Band-Aids, he says. They're detonators. There was never a job on an Alaskan pipeline. After all, what unwind would volunteer for such a job? The whole point was to make sure that no one but Lev, May, and Blaine volunteered. Their van had taken them to the graveyard to a rundown house in a rundown neighborhood where people who had been run down by life plotted unthinkable deeds. Lev was terrified of these people, and yet he felt a kinship with them. They understood the misery of being betrayed by life. They understood what it felt like to have less than nothing inside you. And when they told Lev how important he was in the scheme of things, Lev felt, for the first time in a long time, truly important. The word evil was never used by these people, except to describe the evils of what the world had done to them. What they were not asking Lev, May, and Blaine to do wasn't evil. No, not at all. It was an expression of all the things they felt inside. This is what they filled Lev's mind with, and it was no different than the deadly stuff they filled his blood with. It was twisted, it was wrong, and yet it suited Lev just fine. We have no cause, but chaos. Clever, their recruiter, was always so fond of saying. What Clever never realized, even at the end of his life, is that chaos is a compelling cause as any other. It can become a religion to those unlucky enough to be baptized into it, and those whose consolation can only be found in its soul waters. Lev does not know of Cleaver's fate. He does not know, or care, that he himself is being used. All Lev knows is that some day soon the world will suffer a small part of the loss and emptiness and the utter disillusionment he feels inside, and they know the moment he raises his hands in applause.